Welcome in to the PHNX Suns podcast, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Lindsey Smith here with Saul Bookman. Gerald and Espo are sick, but Espo's going to try and join us a little later on in the show. And we thought today would be an easy day.
We were literally in the middle of a pod, and then this broke. And it was like, of course it broke. Of course this is the way it had to happen, right?
We have been on the edge of our seats since this whole thing started. And the one day we decided to give ourselves a little bit of a break, we were going to go play paintball. That's when everything hit the fan. So you guys are welcome for making things move a little bit forward by trying to give ourselves a little bit of a break. I'm just kidding. Welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you guys here with us. Of course, the main topic of the day, a tweet from Woj. Restricted free agent Deandre Ayton has agreed to a 4-year, $133 million maximum offer sheet with the Indiana Pacers. That comes from Deandre Ayton's agents. Now the Suns have 48 hours to match the largest offer sheet in NBA history. So I think what we should do here is kind of like break down everything that kind of has come to the surface in the last 2 hours, because this initial tweet made everyone think, okay, it's already inks to the paper, right? Done deal, 48 hours from this particular moment.
Not so fast.
Not quite. Not quite. And then the other question too was, but do the Pacers have the cap space? Because all week we've been talking about keep an eye out for a little sidebar move from the Pacers because the cap space isn't fully there. So a couple more things. Here's this one from Woj. The Pacers are waiving guard Dwayne Washington and waiving and stretching the 3 players who arrived in the Boston trade from Malcolm Brogdon. That's what will create the cap space to sign Ayton to the max offer sheet. Now, however, the ink is not dry yet. Pen to paper has not happened yet. But from what we understand, Saul, it's going to happen today.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the expectation is that it's going to happen today at some point. But again, nothing becomes official until midnight tonight. And that's where the fun begins.
Yes.
Because this whole time we've all been kind of waiting around, trying to figure out what's going to happen and all that good stuff. But nothing has happened. Now something has to happen if you're the Phoenix Suns. If you want to make it easier on yourself, and I will say easier, not completely out of the picture for KD, but it's, like somebody said about Chris Paul, he's not washed up, but he's getting near the bathtub. It's kind of the same kind of situation. Like KD's not completely out of the picture if DeAndre Ayton signs this offer sheet, but it makes it incredibly difficult to try and get him in that case. We have a 7.5-7 hour window, so to speak, until that is finalized. And then the Suns would be on the clock for another 48 hours to try and match that once midnight happens tonight. So 7 hours to try and make a sign and trade happen, 48 hours after that to match the offer if they don't get a sign and trade done.
Right, because the understanding is that DeAndre is going to sign this offer sheet today, but the clock does not, or the clock to match doesn't start until midnight tonight Eastern time.
Correct.
So both sides, like you said, do still have a little bit of time to work out a sign and trade before the offer sheet is officially signed. Now, a couple things to keep in mind here.
Yeah.
If the Suns match, that means DA cannot be traded until January 15th. He cannot be traded to the Pacers for a year. And he has trade veto power for a year.
For a year once he has signed the deal with the Suns, essentially.
So essentially 6 months after the window of him actually being allowed to be traded,
exactly.
Right?
They say a year veto trade, but we know for the first 6 months he can't be traded. So so it's kind of a 6-month window.
So that's a lot. But let's just kind of break this down as far as how we're feeing. Should we bring in Espo for this portion? Because I feel like Espo has lots of feelings.
Well, he might be sick. They might be sick feelings, but.
Hi, Espo.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Got the old mic to work, huh? All right. Welcome.
How are you? You're
did.
sick. You got this news. What's going on in your space?
Well, I felt sick before the news, and now I just feel fantastic. I mean, why not add something else on top of it? Look, this comes down to one thing and one thing only to me. If you are unwilling to pay the luxury tax, don't be an NBA owner. And that's what this is going to come down to. Are the Suns willing to go into that $100 million $100 million plus luxury tax if they wind up keeping Ayton and they still want to go after KD. If everything we're hearing is, they're willing to spend that money. Gambo tweeted that out. I don't believe it till I actually see it. People are like, servers changed since 2019. It's a lot easier to say you've changed than to show you've changed. And now is the time that we're going to find out really what's going on here. I think this is a negotiating ploy by the Pacers to try to force the Suns' hands into a sign-and trade, because it doesn't sound like the Suns have been very interested in what the Pacers have to offer. But it's not a bluff, because Ayton will sign this, and then it's on the Suns to match. I don't know where we're headed. I think KD's still alive either way in this, but it complicates it. All those 3-4 team deals are out the window now because you don't have that piece in DeAndre Ayton. This is James Jones has to prove himself now. That's where we're at.
I think, listen, if there was a lot of chatter out there, and there's a lot of people out there that really don't understand how this works. And as a restricted free agent, the Suns still have an opportunity to match. And I think people are just completely overlooking that because they just think that DA is signed with the Pacers. That's not what's happened here. He has signed where he's going to sign an offer sheet. The Suns can still match, and I truly believe they will still match, because it would be absolute franchise suicide, like Johnny Venerable said earlier today, for them to let the number one pick walk out the door after you had all this time to not only come up with a deal with him, but also to try and sign and trade him to get something of value back. James Jones's neck would be on the absolute line right now, and he knows that. Like, as a GM, we were talking about this yesterday. GMs are not necessarily in the let's move it world. It's more of like the self-preservation world. And if you let the number one pick walk out the door, you're absolutely just putting yourself on the line to get fired next. Because it's
buckle up.
That's exactly what would happen.
Buckle up. I think
it's not going to happen.
I think we'll get there. You can keep saying that all you want, but in the end, it may not even be James Jones's choice.
Well,
but he's not signing the checks.
Okay, but hold on. There's a couple things within this too, because, should we just play this video from Brian Windhorst that gives a little bit more details? Because I think that's where my brain's going with this. Shane, let's play this video.
Yeah, the Pacers have been lining this up since the first day of free agency. They met with DeAndre Ayton coming right out of the gates, expressed their interest in him. And as the Suns elected really not to seriously engage on the type of contract that DeAndre Ayton wanted, the Pacers made moves to make this possible, specifically trading Malcolm Brogdon to the Boston Celtics to open up the space to do this. Now, Malika, the Pacers don't like to do offer sheets. How much do they not like to do them? This is the second one they've done in 40 years. And the last one was for a very low-level role player. So they wanted to negotiate a sign and trade with Phoenix and had discussions to that end. They couldn't agree to terms. There was some consideration that this could be a part of a bigger deal. We've talked about that on this show this week. But the Pacers are tired of waiting, and they went forward and made this move. Now, the real question is, do the Suns match? The concept of losing a player like DeAndre Ayton for nothing, which would happen if they didn't match in 48 hours, would be a devastating blow to Phoenix. We almost never see the loss of a restricted free agent to this level. But they do not believe that Ayton is a max player. They didn't believe he was a max player during the extension talks last fall. They do not believe he's a max player now. Matching this would make DeAndre Ayton untradeable until January 15th, so he couldn't be used in any kind of Kevin Durant trade, even if they kept him. And it would push the Suns about $15 million into the luxury tax, a very penal place that they have almost never gone before. So we are all going to be having our popcorn watching the Suns maneuver when they get this offer sheet and we see what bells and whistles are in it to see how toxic the Pacers might have made it.
Okay. So even Brian Windhorst is saying it would be shocking if the Suns don't match this.
It would be stupid.
But the bigger thing that I see in this is that he basically said the Suns and the Pacers have talked. They've tried to work out multiple team deals, probably to get KD, but the Suns have not been receptive to what the Pacers are offering them. So there is a sign and trade on the table. It's just not what James Jones wants. So if you're James Jones, are you really going to say, hey, there's a sign and trade on the table where I can at least get something back to maybe leverage in the future? Or are you genuinely going to be like, okay, go ahead. He's all yours. Thanks. Bye. That's not happening.
Just hit on it. Yeah, I think you just hit on what this is. This is a 7-hour window that Indiana forced to try to get the Suns to accept a sign and trade. And then the Woj tweet, which I think we have, that he said, oh, the Suns are willing to match this, is the Suns saying you better throw in draft compensation here, otherwise we're not doing it. This is a pissing match right now that I think is going on, and I think we're going to see a sign and trade because the Suns didn't want to give him this max. They didn't. It's been pretty clear, and they told him go find it somewhere else. They tried to call his bluff, thinking that nobody else was going to offer to him. It's there now. It puts you in the luxury tax. It means you'll be in a huge luxury tax bill if you figure out a way to get Kevin Durant. I think this ends in a sign and trade before the end of the night where you get assets that you can use in another trade to help make this roster better. I don't think they want to bring back DeAndre Ayton. I don't think DeAndre Ayton wants to be here right now if he's willing to sign this max with Indy and push the Suns' hand here as well.
I mean, I like Brian said in the video too. This is the second offer sheet the Pacers have handed out in 40 years. So, and based on all the reports that we've heard over the last handful of weeks, not even handful of weeks, days, around the Pacers is that, hey, the Pacers want to work out sign and trades. They don't want to give out offer sheets. They want this to be mutually beneficial in some capacity to both teams involved.
That's what was said, yes.
But that's what it said, yes. But I also think that the history kind of speaks for itself in the sense that they haven't given out offer sheets hardly ever at all. And so I think you're absolutely right, Espo. I think this is the Pacers saying, listen, we've waited long enough. We're trying to work with you on a deal. You guys are dragging your feet. So you know what? Either pull up to the table and let's legitimately talk in the next 7 hours or okay.
Well, I also think that this is the Pacers' way of just saying, like, we're kind of done with this. We want this to be resolved somehow, some way. So we're going to put the offer sheet out there. And if you don't want to do a sign and trade, then you're going to have to match and move on. And that's exactly what's going to happen. I just don't see a scenario where the Suns, a sign and trade could very well happen. And I think that's probably the more desirable outcome, obviously. But if you're the Suns too, like, I know there's this prevailing thought that the Suns just do not want DeAndre Ayton by any stretch of the imagination. I think the Suns were waiting out the market to see what was going to happen. I think they do want DA back, but they don't want him at 133 mil. I'll say that. But last year we were talking about him getting an offer of 4 years, 121 million, I think, right? Wasn't that the offer? 4 years, 121, allegedly. So we're talking about DeAndre Ayton waited for $12 million. Like, if you're the Suns, you take that. Like, okay, whatever. Maybe we were wrong. We'll give you the 133 and we move on. And I think that's the best case scenario as opposed to trying to get Miles Turner and a handful of draft picks that you don't even want.
Do you think they'll go into the huge luxury tax to get Kevin Durant at that point? Because based on math, what it sounds like is they would pay the second highest luxury tax bill outside of what the Warriors paid last year if they do that. Or do you think this is we're running it back at this point if they match it?
I'm hoping that they would go into luxury tax. $15 million into luxury tax to me doesn't really.
Is that the number though? Because I can't get a legitimate read on what this number is because I've heard people say upwards of 100 million. I've heard 15 million.
With KD, it would be 60, 70, 80 million, right?
Yeah, you're pushing almost into the $100 million range, depending on who's going out, what you're doing. Those kind of things. If you bring KD in at that point, it's $15 million over the luxury tax when you sign DA, and then you get to the threshold if you bring in KD, which makes you pay 1.5, 2.5 times per dollar that you're spending. So it adds up immensely quick with that. We saw the Warriors do that the last few years. I mean, they paid upwards of, I think it was $80 million just to have Kelly Oubre on their roster a handful of years ago when he moved on from the Suns. So, look, this is going to cost a boatload of money if you're still in on KD. Now, if they match, maybe they've learned that KD isn't in the cards for them. Maybe they just realize Sean Marks isn't going to budge off what he's asking for. They're unwilling to pay. I don't know, but we're going to learn a lot of things in the next 48 hours. And James Jones is on the clock. James Jones' legacy as a general manager is on the clock right now. I've said it since the beginning of this offseason. We will know who he is by the end of this.
I would also, listen, right now, as we speak, in the situation as it is right now, James Jones has already fumbled the bag. I will say that right now. Because you could have said, if they end up matching the offer, they could have saved themselves a little bit earlier than this. But they didn't. They opted to wait this out. They put themselves in a situation where now the market's going to dictate it for you. And I just, if James Jones comes away with this and we basically have the same team from last year coming back with no real assets that we can point to and say, okay, the team improved here or here, a lot of people are going to be upset because you were a second round team. And that's just how people are going to view it. Fair or not. I just feel like I feel like James Jones has a particular way about him and the way he processes things and the way he goes about his business, and it's too slow for the rest of the NBA that is trying to make things work at a quicker pace. It's got to get to it, man.
I mean, people are going to get impatient, just like we're seeing with the Pacers right now. I feel like the Pacers gave them a good amount of time to try and figure something out. And it seems like the Pacers were willing to work with them. It seems like DA was even willing to work with the Suns. But at some point in time, these teams, like we're seeing right now, they're going to be like, listen, we're trying to build our team as well. Mm-hmm. We can't just wait for you to focus on your team only and then us be on the back burner to your situation. Like, there has to be mutual respect across all of these different teams and organizations in order to work things out to avoid situations like this. And I mean, here's what do we have? We have another tweet from Woj, and he said, so far, Suns haven't shown an interest in negotiating a sign and trade on Ayton with the Pacers. But the expectation remains that Phoenix will match the record $133 million offer sheet once it's signed, per sources from ESPN. Suns could trade Ayton as soon as January 15th once a sheet is matched.
Yeah, those sources are the Suns, I think. Because if you read the context clues, so far they've been unwilling to, and they'll match. This is a negotiating ploy by the Suns, is my read on this. We heard Woj got the information originally from the Pacers on the deal and from DA's camp. I think this is the Suns' counter move if they're playing chess in this, trying to get Indy to give something else in a sign and trade right now. It just feels like there's a chess game going on right now. You've got James Jones staring down Indiana and staring down Sean Marks and the Nets all at the same time. It's a standoff right now.
But I get what you're saying, and I do think it makes sense. But the first sentence of this tweet, Suns haven't shown an interest in negotiating a sign and trade on Ayton with the Pacers. Like,
so far, though, is the first two words in that. Woj is very good at hedging things, right?
But why? That's my question.
They don't
why?
want just Miles Turner, and I'm betting that the main part of the main thing in that offer, or if not the only thing, was probably Miles Turner. We'll give you Miles Turner for DeAndre Ayton. That was a non-starter for them. Everything we've heard is they don't really want Miles Turner. You know, at one point this week, I think it was Gambo said they might take him because it's a one-year deal, but they don't want him. Well, I just feel like there's a lot of posturing going on right now with this. And it doesn't surprise me that you've got Woj and Bobby Marks coming out and making it very clear a sign and trade is still possible right now. If this was a fait accompli, he was signing it, there wasn't any chance that the Suns were backing off of their desire to have a sign and trade, I don't think it happens. I don't think the Pacers cut one guy and cut and stretch three other guys just to get to the cap space at this point if they don't have a good feeling that they're getting DeAndre Ayton.
Well, I see what you're saying, Espo. I just, there's Indiana is in control of their own situation. The Suns also have a little bit of control on the back end once Indiana enacts what they did today. And that's part of this game right now. Again, I'm going to go back to this. And it's so funny that when we were recording our episode earlier today, we were talking about the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and I literally said, if I had to put $1,000 on anything, I would put it on DA coming back to the Suns. And I feel like that's where we're at right now.
So is that going to be our DraftKings pick of the week? Put some money on DA.
Yep. Put all your money back on DA to come back to the Suns at this point.
But if you do, you better get it in early. Like now.
I'm putting if they match, I'm putting my money on Kevin Durant going back to the Nets.
Yeah, I agree.
To start the season.
Okay.
I don't see a scenario where KD comes to the Suns if DA comes back to the Suns. It's just too impossible.
Well, I guess we will find out. If you guys want to get some skin in the game, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use promo code PHNX, make your first deposit, and you're going to get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Again, that's promo code PHNX. Risk-free bet up to $1,000. Like, this is the time, if you are not already on the DraftKings app and you did not already sign up with PHNX, you should do that because you could potentially get a big payday here, but it's risk-free, and that's the best part. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. We do have a super chat from Noel, not totally sure, apologies. Jones isn't Pat Riley. Pat has a huge smile right now. Thank you for your super chat.
Okay.
Yep. That's the super chat. We appreciate you. And my goodness, the amount of comments right now, I'm having such a hard time kind of keeping up with all of them.
We apologize for not being able to pull up some comments on the screen. We're having a bit of a technical issue because there's a lot of people streaming right now wanting to know more about what's going on with the Suns.
You guys broke our stream.
Okay, so you had mentioned when we were talking about DraftKings and where we would put our money. So you don't think if the Suns match, you don't think that they're going to get KD?
It's just like Espo was saying, the tax bill on that would be just so enormously high that, when you're talking about an owner that hasn't really shown the propensity to go to that level to spend money, it's hard for me to believe. I think $15 million over the tax right now for DeAndre Ayton is going to be pushing it, and I think that's going to cause stresses in the organization as it is alone. Now add another 60, 70, $80 million to that, and it becomes even worse. And we that's just the reputation that this franchise has right now. I don't like the idea that well, let me go back. It's not my money, so I could give a shit less. Obviously, I want KD to come to the Suns, but I just don't see what assets you have to try and leverage to try and get KD here, unless, again, a sign and trade happened with DA. That changes the game a little bit.
Well, see, that's the thing that gets me is how do you find the path to get KD? Whether you throw in DA now. But even that, is that even enough?
No, right? It's not.
In my mind, it's not, and it makes a 3-team deal much more complicated because you don't have that asset to send to that third team now, unless you're saying, hey, do you want Cam Johnson, this third team? McHale, Brooklyn, do you want McHale? And here's 4 first-round picks and 3 pick swaps. I don't see them doing that. If there's a path to KD, my guess is what happens is come January 15th, when DA becomes available to trade, maybe things reopen there if he's back with the Nets. But the path right now, if there's not a sign and trade, seems very much more convoluted than we thought it was a few days ago.
The only way something happens today that gets Kevin Durant, first of all, here's what I'll say. If Kevin Durant is not part of a sign and trade today, it's not happening, because I feel like you had the pieces in the last day or two to try and make this happen with the Donovan Mitchell news, the Nets apparently wanting a star. You could have traded DA to the Jazz, like all that stuff, but you didn't. You didn't want to do that. You weren't interested in it. Maybe you didn't like the pieces that were going to be moved around. And so unless they were right there on the hinge of that, like yesterday, and they can circle back to it today and be like, you know what, we'll do it. Let's do it. Let's make everybody happy. I just don't think it's going to happen. So,
I mean, I understand that it definitely makes things harder, but I still think that there is an avenue where you could, in some theory, get KD here, even if you match a DA offer sheet. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying we're not going to be giving up a boatload of things in order to make it happen, but I still don't think it's completely dead in the water.
I know. And listen, there's everybody in the chat right now that is just flexing it up. And I appreciate you guys. And we love flex. And I'm not saying that he's wrong. And I'm not completely squashing the idea of KD coming here if Ayton comes back. I'm not. But what I'm saying is the percentages have significantly gone down now that DA would have to be a part of a sign and trade if they couldn't execute that today. And they become even worse if you can't do a sign and trade with Indiana and you have to bring back DA. It's just the numbers are just trickling. So I would not buy stock in KD coming to the Suns after today.
Saul, I know you hate this direction of questioning kind of stuff, but where do you think DA's at? I mean, if you match him, I can't imagine he's going to be particularly happy with it, especially because he kind of forced their hand at this point. I don't know that you're going to have – chemistry has been such a key to this. If they match, do you think he's going to be in a headspace to be, the guy that sacrifices touches, does the things he's done to help them be successful? I don't know that he will be.
Well, I see what you're saying there, especially when people want to look at, the last, I don't even know what camera, is this the camera I'm looking at? Especially when you're talking about the last images of DA coming off that court in Monty Williams, right? And images that I'm like, okay, whatever. The heat of battle, you're getting your ass whooped in Game 7. I don't care about that. I really don't. But I'm going to defer to what he had been that entire year. He wasn't happy that he didn't get the max extension, but he still played. He didn't complain about it all season. He was a total pro about it. And I'm going to take the 364 days of him being, just a good teammate versus the one bad day that he had. Like, I'm just going to. So I think DA can compartmentalize these things and play ball. He's getting the bag. He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid a high salary, which is what he wanted. He proved that there are other teams that value him, and I think he's content with that, and he just moves on. And listen, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, all these guys, they also know that this is a business, and they're all going to kiss and hug, and they're going to be okay, and they're going to move on. They're going to move forward. Chris Paul will probably come back to him like, see, I told you were going to get the bag. Like, it's
not the way we expected, but you still got one.
Yeah.
Well, I get that, but I think he's wanted to be a bigger option on offense, right? We've heard that. If he's the second highest paid guy on your team and he's still the third or fourth option, I can't imagine he's going to be happy about that.
I know
money's nice, but I don't think it was always about the money.
No,
I think it was about him feeling wanted.
I don't think it was always about the money, but it's a big part. It's a big part of it.
It's a big part of it, and I also I do have this feeling, Espo, that towards the end of the season, he was starting to get agitated about that. Like, he just was like, no, fuck this. I'm gonna. Like, he did a couple things that I was like, oh, look at that. There you go. Like, you should do more of that. And I think this upcoming season, he probably won't defer to Chris Paul or Devin Booker as much as he has in the past. I will say that for sure.
There's a lot of people arguing in the comments right now on whether DA is selfish or is not selfish. And I think you could argue that both of them can be true at the same time. But I will say that if we're looking at this past year, the fact that DA played within the role that he was asked to play with without getting paid, I think last year he probably leaned more to the unselfish side of things than the selfish side of things. Right now, he's probably being full-blown selfish because he did sacrifice for this team. He talked about it. This entire team talked about it. The front office and the coaching staff talked about it. So now DA is like, okay, well, what am I being unselfish for? I'm not even going to get paid. Yeah. So right now, in his head, it's probably all about him.
There's nothing selfish about that. That's part of his right as a restricted free agent to go get his money and find a place that he wants to be. That's not selfish in the least. He has no reason to try to help the Suns ship him out and get Kevin Durant in here. That's Agreed. Not selfish. That's him looking out for himself and understanding that this is part of the business. And that's not selfish. You can argue little things along the way, but that's not selfish, and he's sacrificed a lot. So he's earned this right. So screw the concept that he's being selfish by getting himself the bag this way. He waited 2 weeks even.
Also, if we're going to call DA selfish, do we also need to start calling KD selfish because he wants to do what's best for him as well? Like we can't be playing this. It's okay for players to try and put themselves first, but it's not okay for this player to put themselves first. Game here.
KD has 4 years on his contract. DeAndre Ayton is a free agent. Like, if anybody's being selfish, it's KD holding the Nets hostage, not DeAndre Ayton trying to get paid.
You know, I totally agree with that. Listen, I don't know where this narrative comes from about DA being selfish, but I will say this. If you put yourselves in his shoes right now and you've done everything that you did to this point and you felt like you met the criteria, as that Isaiah Thomas gift says, right? You met the criteria. You thought you did exactly what you needed to do to get the bag. And your employer says, well, I don't think you did enough. Okay, well, I want to seek other opportunities. Everybody or a lot of people have been in that situation, and a lot of people look for other opportunities and they try to get the bag somewhere else. That's what DeAndre Ayton's doing. It's just fortunate for the Suns that they have the opportunity to match, in which a lot of employers don't. So I'm not mad at DA whatsoever. Listen, every time an athlete can go get their money, go get it. Go get it. That's what you put yourself in a position to do. Is go get the bag. Mm-hmm. And DA proved that he could get the bag today. 4 years, $133 million. Now, Suns, what are you going to do about it?
We have a couple super chats. The first one from Andrew. Andrew, thank you for your super chat. They said, we're not getting KD now. Shaking my head. Why we made deal with Pacers? ? DA now gone. We didn't make a deal with the Pacers as far as the Suns. The Pacers offered DA an offer sheet or gave DA an offer sheet. So now we're kind of in this sticky situation. But we appreciate your super chat. Don't be too sad just yet. Let's just wait until it all plays out to really decide what our emotions are around this. We have another super chat from Big Pothead. Thank you for your super chat. We appreciate you. Said his coach called him a quitter. You don't come back from that. Plus Sarver's cheap AF. There are some.
Go ahead, Espo.
I was just going to say the first part, I think you can come back from. The second part, I think, is factually true as of what we know so far. I mean, we could be proven wrong. That could change. People can change. I just need to see it actually happen before I'm willing to applaud somebody and claim that they have. That's where I'm at with that.
Also, there was one other comment in the chat that I did want to address. Somebody asked me what I was smoking. Not smoking anything. I'm just indulging in some OG's scratch-made THC gummies. If you want to get some, highly recommend. They're awesome. They did just launch their first ever limited edition seasonal flavor, Pina Colada, which is super bomb. And then they have some of their OG flavors as well available. You can check them out online at ogsbrands.com and on Instagram at ogsbrands. You can also find their products at your local dispensary. But just a reminder, you have to be 21 years or older to purchase. Thank you in the chat for that transition. Love ya. All right, guys.
Yeah, there's just some good chats going on right now. First, can I read a couple of these?
Yeah, absolutely.
First of all, 750 people watching. That's pretty dope. There's a lot of people that are not Suns fans that are in our chat, which is kind of entertaining to me. Pacers got a squad on paper and more picks after we trade Ponytail Miles. So I like the Miles Turner thing. That's pretty funny. And then just a lot of people just hating. They think that this is a done deal because clearly they don't know basketball and this is not a done deal. Everybody talking about the Suns got fleeced by the Pacers of all teams. Like, bro, chill out. Nothing's happened yet. Cool. He signed a piece of paper. The Suns can match. It's not the end of the day. Chill. That's all I have to say.
Let's go down the path that you feel is going to happen, because if we go down mine, it's the darkest timeline. We don't want to go there. But say they match, right? And we're sitting there, and let's assume at that point you're somewhat out of the KD thing. You're looking at how do we fortify this roster? A name that I believe Mike Conley was let go by Utah, right? You're still in the market for a quality backup point guard, and you have a $6 million exception. if you wound up running it primarily back, adding a guy like a Mike Conley to be your backup at point guard, which is the kind of move you're going to have to make. You're on the fringes at this point in adding people. Are they good enough to still compete in a West that is getting better by simply guys not being injured and some of the moves that have been made?
I want to say yes, but I think they need one more move, and I think that one move is probably going to return in the form of Dario Saric, to be honest with you. So that will certainly help as well. I think they just need one more shooter, because are you going to rely on Landry Shamet? I'm not sure. You need one more shooter to solidify that bench, because I'm going to assume at some point Jay Crowder and Cam Johnson might flip-flop. Or you move Cam Johnson to the starting lineup and you trade Jay for that other piece that maybe you need on the bench that can score a high volume shooter to kind of pace you out. I think at that point, if you did bring in Mike Conley as well, I think then you're there. I think you're there. You feel good about your team. You've solidified your bench, a much stronger bench than you've ever had before, and so that way when you get to the playoffs, you don't run into the same pitfalls that you did a year ago.
Yeah, I feel like we got distracted by this really shiny thing in Kevin Durant, and the core of a really good basketball team is still here with or without him. Now, you're not going to be the hands-on favorite, obviously, but you're still open to options at the deadline, different things. We learned last year the regular season doesn't matter as long as you finish in the top 6 in the West and you don't find yourself in the play-in. It's how you play when you get to April, May, and June. That's what's going to matter. So, that's some perspective. I know it feels like doom and gloom. It feels like give up. This is all over. And I think if you let DA walk without getting anything, you're close to that. That's the one thing you couldn't do if you're definitely not getting Kevin Durant. But if you bring back DeAndre Ayton, that's still a very, very, very good basketball team. That's a 64-win team that all they lost was JaVale McGee, really.
And also, it's a fire sale in Utah right now. They're trying to get rid of everybody. Danny Ainge is basically cleaning house. So there's some pieces that could be had over there. Jordan Clarkson, just saying.
So couple more super chats. It's about damn time. Thank you for your super chat. They said, me personally, I don't think the Suns are that good of a team without DA on the roster. They got to swallow the bullet and give the young man his money. Thank you for your super chat. We got one from I Love Wob, and I don't really want to read it because I don't like, you can tell me if you want to read it or not.
Oh, I can't see it.
I don't like name calling. I don't like being mean to people. It's not what I'm about.
Who's it being mean to?
Well, he's being mean to Flex.
No.
So we're gonna lay off of that one.
All I'm gonna say is
send that one back.
You can always mute people on the internet. You can always block people on the internet. You can choose to not engage with people on the internet. And if you don't like it, that's okay.
Like Flex came at me today.
But you ain't got to be mean about it.
Like Flex put out there that doesn't mean that the Suns are out of the KD sweepstakes and he still feels like they're going to go on a run. I'm like, but it puts more obstacles in the way. And he came back at me and said, if you say so. I'm like, okay, cool. I still love him. He's still a good guy. He's still trying to do his best to put out information that he's hearing. I don't understand the Flex hate. There's a lot of people in here that love Flex, but I also don't understand the hate.
We just need to be nice to people. People are angry at Woj. People are angry at Shams. People are angry at insert name here. It's okay to not be happy with the information you're hearing. It is okay to not want to see it on your timeline. But we don't have to be a-holes to each other, okay?
Well, and you don't have to take down the messenger. These people are hearing things from sources. They're providing what they're hearing. Whether it's true at the moment, but things can change. We've talked about this the whole way. Why we weren't going to act like KD was a done deal regardless of anybody till it was actually done. Because things change at the drop of a hat. I'm sure the Suns weren't expecting DeAndre Ayton and the Pacers to push him into the corner today. But it happened because things change. So I never hold it against any insider for reporting something and then it not necessarily happening, because at the time, they're not going to report bad information. They're not going to share a false narrative fully knowing that, knowing they'll be wrong, because their whole career is based on that information and being right more than they are wrong. So
I love Wob. You can send a non-super chat message chat in the comment section, and I'll read that one if you want to. If you want to send another one. We also have one from Kyle. Kyle, thank you for your super chat. They said, I thought he hasn't technically, quote unquote, signed yet, and a sign and trade could still happen between Indy and Phoenix. Yes, we did talk about this earlier in the show. The assumption is that he's going to sign today, but how it all works out is the clock to match doesn't officially start until midnight. So they do have until midnight Eastern time today to work out a potential sign and trade on both sides, which is just a handful of hours away.
About 6 hours left.
Yes. So that's kind of where we are. And then our last super chat we'll get to until we take a break and come back to some things comes from Code. Code, thank you for your super chat. They said, we will be exactly where the Utah Jazz is now in 5 years. Is that a concern of your guys's?
I mean, it's always a concern.
I mean, I guess maybe, yeah, no shit, Lindsey.
The difference is
how concerned are you that will actually happen?
The difference is that nobody wants to go live in fucking Salt Lake. That's the biggest difference. Like Phoenix in the wintertime, pretty nice place to live. Not gonna lie.
Look,
in the wintertime.
Yeah,
at least that's when their
now.
season is, though, which is.
How does the next few years play out too? I mean, if they win a championship, I don't give a shit if they're there 5 years from now. Like that's perfectly fine. There's too much to look at and try to guess what 5 years from now is going to look like. Shit, we don't know what 48 hours from now is going to look like. There's varying reports as to that and what the Suns are going to do. So let's focus on just getting through the next 48 hours and understanding DA before we panic about what 5 years from now is going to look like.
Again, the Suns would have until midnight on Saturday or 11:59 on Saturday night to match any offer should they not execute a sign and trade by today. So
8:59 East or 8:59 Arizona time on Saturday.
Our time.
11:59 Eastern.
Which means we'll be back with another emergency pod at some point in time.
We might be back here in a couple hours if there's a sign and trade.
What? Like 55 hours, something like that. We'll have probably at least one or two more shows for you guys. It'll be.
I think we have a resolution way before that last minute. There's no reason if the Suns know what they're going to do, there's no reason to drag it out at that point. I mean, you're either matching or not. It's not screwing over Indy because they've already made their moves outside of DA. So, I think we have an answer long before 8:59 on Saturday night.
It's just very fascinating to look at the chat and see how many people hate DeAndre Ayton, how many people love him, how many people understand the value that he has, whether you like him or love him. And it's just, or hate him or love him. And it's just, I just don't understand it. Like, listen, this is a business. And the Suns are trying to make business decisions, just like DeAndre Ayton is trying to make a business decision. And these are assets. Players are assets, just like any employee to any company is an asset. And you got to manage those assets the best way they can. The Suns didn't do the best of jobs in this situation. Doesn't mean that the end of the world is coming. It doesn't mean that they can't still get KD. It just means that you're going to have to pay a higher premium to keep all your toys. And that's just how it is. And it's okay to be in that situation. Listen, for the longest time, you couldn't even attract the attention of a Kevin Durant. For 10 years, nobody in their right mind wanted to come here. I don't know why I said mom. Maybe I got freaking Zach Wilson on the brain.
That would be anybody and their mom's friend wouldn't.
Guys.
So it's just it's okay to be in this situation. The Suns are still in a good spot. It's going to be all right. All these other people in the chat that are from the Pacers are just, they like the show, so we appreciate you coming along, but you're wrong. The Suns are still going to be good next year. I have faith.
Okay.
Hey, Saul, you know what, though? You and I are right. Because we always said that DA was a max guy, and he's a max guy now, so high five.
Let's go.
Heyo.
It's nice.
Also, if DA comes back to the Suns and we don't get KD, I save my bank account and Espo doesn't have to wear an Ewok costume. So we both win.
That's true, because you offered to buy a round of beer at the Four Peaks Brewery if the Suns get KD.
It's a total win-win for everybody, because either KD comes to Phoenix or we have to see Espo in an Ewok costume.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, you're right, Shane. It is a win-win for everybody. And a win-win for everybody is also Four Peaks beer, because it's that delightful. And a win-win for everybody, or could be anyway, a giveaway that you can enter. That is absolutely free. You can enter our Toast of the Month sweepstakes right now at gophnx.com. And here's what you're going to get if you win. You're going to get a $50 gift card to Four Peaks. You're going to get a PHNX shirt of your choice and a PHNX annual membership. Like I said, absolutely free to enter this giveaway. Just head to gophnx.com right now to enter to win. You can also pick up Four Peaks beer whenever you want to just have a few cold ones and hang out. They're available pretty much at any of your local grocery stores, places like that. You can also head down to their brewery on 8th Street, have some really bomb food, have some really great drinks, hang out with your friends, hang out with your family. But just a reminder, in order to drink the alcohol, you must be 21 or older and enjoy responsibly, please. And
also, the PHNX membership is constantly evolving. We are going to be sending out some emails and we're going to be giving our members an opportunity to join us in our first ever NBA 2K and Madden leagues this year. So you guys can join us for that if you want to, but you got to be a member to get the first dibs on those spots, because they go pretty quick. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, Harpoon asked if they have food at Four Peaks. Yes, they have very good food. Highly recommend the chicken tenders.
Also, you'll be the first to be able to get your hands on a potential collab shirt that we are doing with Four Peaks, which is soon to be coming. So a lot of cool things going on. Again, what we do is we match up with partners, we bring them into the fold, and then we reap the benefits and give them to you. So
you'll also be the first to catch these hands in Madden.
Oh, come on, Shane.
Hey-yo.
Come on, Shane.
So can you do me a favor, since I'm not in studio, you or Lindsey? Can you guys shake those chairs, shake the couch cushions, see if we can find some change to send down to the talking stick or wherever, footprint set or whatever the hell they call it now, so we can start that fund to help pay for this luxury tax?
No.
Thanks,
No.
guys. All right.
No.
Screw you two.
Sorry,
I'll let the billionaires figure that one out.
Yeah, they got more money than we all do combined, so they can handle that. So a few more super chats. One from Code, thank you, said, if we match and keep Ayton, please, no more babying him. Babying him. Baby him. That's what that means. Long John Silver, thank you for your super chat, said, Woj and other national guys have been wrong countless times just this offseason. Lay off flex. Again, be nice. Just be nice to people. Thank you for your super chat, though, Long John Silver. We appreciate you. Then Sons and 8 sent an empty super chat, but then followed up with this comment. So I'm going to guess this is what his super chat was meant. This only makes a trade for KD come faster. Suns and Pacers will agree to a trade. I hope that is the case, because remember yesterday when we went over the hypothetical 4-team trade that Bobby Marks put out on ESPN? It included Miles Turner in it going to Brooklyn. Now, maybe they have already tried to make this trade happen, and Brooklyn was like, yeah, nah, we're not interested. But maybe not. Maybe that's still on the table, or maybe a similar variation of that hypothetical trade is still on the
There's
table.
also I think one of the things we've kind of overlooked is if you're Brooklyn, you're in no rush. No rush at all. You have KD for 4 years, and you have Kyrie coming back potentially. You're in no rush to make any move until it suits you. I know KD might, until we get to training camp and KD doesn't show up, that would be the only time where all obviously things change. And so I think everything's going to work out just fine. I think the Suns will retain DA. I don't think a sign and trade is going to happen today. And, we'll see what other moves get made after that.
I do think this opens the door for Miami in a multi-team trade for KD, though, because they could send Bam to Utah. Donovan Mitchell could go to Brooklyn. You could get some combination of Ben Simmons going somewhere. I just think it opens a path for the Heat that may not have been there before, because they have some options there. But it sounds like the Knicks are heavy on Donovan Mitchell as well. So
Yeah.
this is just going to get
so much chaos.
We're not going to have resolution real quick. I still don't think on the KD front.
And Long John Silver asked if they're not interested in DA, why would they be interested in Turner? I felt like Turner is kind of just a throw-in filler, to be honest, because I feel like Donovan Mitchell and Mikal Bridges in that particular trade scenario would be the main pieces that you'd be wanting to bring onto your team.
Well, and it doesn't hard cap you, which trading for DA would have. Miles Turner makes a lot less money, which could be part of it too.
Also, just a little FYI, we might have another pod today. And if we do, you don't want to miss it. Sometimes you miss the tweets and stuff. It's all good. We don't know what time we would be going. But if there's a sign and trade happening, we will get right back on this horse and ride again. So turn on those notifications. Give us a thumbs up, please, on that YouTube.
While you're here, just hit that thumbs up button, because it helps us out a lot. And like Saul said, if you have notifications on, you can turn them on for our YouTube channel. You can turn them on for our social media channels, Twitter and Instagram. We're going to always be sharing things. Twitter at PHNX_Suns, Instagram at PHNX_Sports. So yeah, turn on notifications so that you never miss any of the conversation that we are doing.
It's a constantly moving world, folks. We're trying to keep up with it. Hopefully we'll get some more news as the day goes on, but we'll see what happens.
All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for this show. We've given all the information that we've been able to gather. We've shared our thoughts. We've let the chat share their thoughts. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you. Unfortunately, we're back in the waiting game again, but at least this time around, there's a hard deadline. So we know we're going to get at least some sort of an answer in the next
somebody's got to shoot their shot
50-ish some odd hours. Thank you for tuning in. As a reminder, we want you guys to stay safe and healthy all year long, especially now that it's summertime. We're out and about, vacationing, hanging out with friends and family. COVID-19 vaccines are free for everyone 5 and older. Those 12 and older are also now eligible for a booster. Visit azhealth.gov/findvaccine for a location near you. We'll be back at some point in time, but we're going to put a tentative schedule out there for 2 p.m. tomorrow, unless anything has happened, which again is why you should turn on notifications. But until then, you can follow me on Twitter at LindseySmithAZ. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. You can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, take us home.
Just remember, actions speak louder than words. $15 million in luxury tax speaks pretty damn loud. Ahoy, hoy.
Tell the Phoenix Metro, Megas in control and he ain't never gonna let go. PHNX though, Lindsey, Gerald, Espo. Saul pass the ball, we here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me, I'll always rep the family. Rally in the valley like Dan G, no plan B. Always on the job, my team move like the mob.